the ambulance system in the country faces some key challenges. Key among them is inadequate fleet.
Most of the ambulances around my vicinity where I cover are broken down, and I cover all the area. So at a particular time when we are supposed to be here, or you're supposed to be going for other cases, we are supposed to waste all that time here until we're able to get our trolley before we get back to base. And for all that time duration, other people might be wanting the service of the ambulance, which is parked here until we're able to get our trolley.
So you've relayed this information to the control room that you are unavailable within this period because you are waiting to get your trolley. Why can't you just leave the trolley and go?
The trolley is it's very important because it's what you use to carry the patient. So without it, you can't work, because when you carry the patient, you can't leave the patient on the stand. You need a trolley to keep the patient on before you can do other stuff. It's one of the most important things in the car. Without a trolley, the ambulance is nothing. Like it's empty.
Ideally, there should be a main fleet and standby ambulances to serve the country, but this is virtually non-existent.
Ideally, for every ambulance station, you're supposed to have a standby vehicle. When one leaves for emergency, there's a standby, or when it goes for maintenance, there is a standby. Because we still have not been able to develop to a point where we have enough resources, the standby vehicles normally do not exist. So we rely solely on the main vehicle that is on the road.
Some Ghanaians have accused the ambulance service of extorting monies from them before making their service available to them. But according to the service, what it takes from patients or their family members is for fuel support, and that is sanctioned.
Please, are you a relative of the patient?
Oh, okay. All right, okay. Thank you.
With me. Okay.
Oh, okay. So when you are about to go, let us know.
The relative that they will give 150 for the fuel support.
Okay.
When the ambulance, 150 for the fuel support. Yes. So kindly tell them when they agree, then I'll let the ambulance come. If is he with you? Is a relative with you? Yes. The relative have to agree on the amount.
Whether they can afford
they can afford or not, then we know what to do. That is why I'm saying, please tell me. Then I will talk to my OIC, then we'll know what to do about it. Okay. All right.
Hello.
Okay.
Normally, it will depend on the hospitals that will call, depending on where they are calling from. And then we support something small for fuel. But for the charges, we don't charge higher. Let me say, if you take a case from Ridge Hospital to Kolebu, we support a fuel of 50 Ghana cedis. Okay. It's only when we are going for examination, let me say scan, X-ray and other medical, with those ones.
You do that one?
We do that one too. There are some, yes. There are some patients that with their condition, they can't sit. They have to lie in the trolley. So such patients, when they are going to do maybe head scan, abdominal scan or something, they have to be in the ambulance. And normally, scans and those things, they have to book. So it's not like something that you just get there and then they will do it done for you. So that one takes a longer time. So that's the only difference, that the charges changes. But for referral cases, and then when you call and then you tell us that maybe you want to refer a case or something and you don't even have money, we still make sure that we take the patient to the appropriate facility to be taken care of. So it's not compulsory that if there is no ambulance, if you don't have money to pay, we don't go. We do make sure we take the patient to the receiving facility to be for a further medical care to be taken.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ambulance service.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, madam.
Please, my name is Dr. Ruth Mondeji. I'm calling from Medina Polyclinic, Kikili.
Yes, madam.
I have a patient I want to return to 37, Guinness.
Madam,
And
please.
I need an ambulance, yes.
Okay. Madam, please give me your contact number.
My contact number is 0276 74400.
Madam, please, have you made arrangements at 37?
Yes, please.
Please, may I know the department you called?
Gynae, please.
Gynae.
Yes, please.
Okay. Madam, is it possible to know the one you spoke with at 37?
We spoke to one anesthetic by name, Mr. Osei.
Mr. Osei.
Yes, please.
Okay. Madam, please, I want to know the patient's condition.
She's a female, a 35-year-old female with ruptured ectopic. She came in the morning. We were monitoring her for some time, but then we realized that she has a ruptured ectopic and she's been trying to make arrangements. It just went through. That's why we are now calling.
Okay, madam. Madam, please, I'll call 37 gynae department to confirm if an arrangement has been made and then there is a bed to accept the patient, and they'll call you back.
All right. That'll be great.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, too.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam. Please, am I speaking to Dr. Rosemonde J?
Yes, please.
Please, I'm calling from the National Ambulance Control Room.
Okay.
You called earlier on for an ambulance to convey the patient to 37 Military Hospital, Gynae.
Yes, please.
Madam, please, I've called 37. They said they are aware, so we should bring the patient.
All right.
So please, we'll be dispatching the ambulance at your end. But you support fuel of 50 Ghana cedis.
All right.
Okay. Madam, please, the ambulance.
How soon should we expect the ambulance?
Please, within the next 10 minutes, the ambulance will be there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Bye.
And yes, I never ade a nipa ne bɛda so no ɛno na ɛnyɛ bi
10. Proceed to Mama Mission. Female ward fan emergency control over.
bisa wɔn si ɔmo anyɛ bi nti wobɛtwɛn kakra
Not control from Abu over.
10 go ahead, control over.
Now at Manam is over.
Roger, control over.
Not control from Abu over.
10 go ahead, control over.
Patient had over to hospital authority. 10 mobile to over.
Roger, control over.
What are some of the challenges you face with picking calls and dispatching ambulance to patients? What are the challenges you face?
Most challenges, let me say, the biggest challenge is the prank calls. Because about 90% of the calls that comes are prank calls. And then it's most of the time deprive a true call to come through, because one person can engage the line for almost an hour.
Oh, really?
Really, yes.
For what?
Just calling, because the number is free. They will call, you pick the call. Either the person insults you, or the person can just be on the line for some time. And if the line is not cut, there's no way another call can come in. So
you can hang up from here.
If you hang up and then the person have not hang up over there, it's find it difficult. And most of them, even when you hang up, they will call again. And because they are on the phone, immediately they can just redial.
And they will keep coming through.
They will keep coming through. And then when true calls are coming, they are not getting us.
Hello?
In the next few minutes, they will call and they will tell you, we've called the ambulance several times. Either they are not picking our calls, or their lines were off, or their lines were busy. Yeah.
So how do you deal with these prank calls? How do you deal with them?
It's
Because you can trace the number.
Yes. Formerly, we found it difficult to trace some of the numbers, especially with the Vodafone and then the MTN line. But now, we have phones with caller IDs. So when they call, we normally see their numbers. Those that we think maybe for almost within a minute, they can call more than 10 or 5 times. What we do is, we just save their number as prank, so that when they are calling, we don't pick those calls. Then when there's an incoming call, which we've not stored it as prank or anything, we can just pick that call to attend to the person calling.
Whilst conducting this interview, one of the prank calls came through.
Eja to infa. Impatu mpacho wa infa. Kofori dia infa. Ahiaso. Nampacho wankasa wo. Pacho mami wo number why? 054 55 80 326. Pacho san repeat wo number ni biom why? Some boy wo number ni biom why? Be the bema fast service for. What say? Hi. Hi. Okay, number show within the same. Your frau kweku. Where your ba na bema? O say. Where your bema? You me the number bema fast service. Where the fear say? Good afternoon, ambulance service. Where is saying? Yo, Martina, me see where the fear saying? Where the fear saying? Where the 48? Sir. Into where a penny and alcohol? What say? Where a penny wo home? Kweku. Oh, kase. Yo, inti eba wo honum. Na mana odi ma me me frɛ wa wo mfa da na wo mfa.
In order to verify, the team called back the number after the caller had hung up, but the number could not be reached. Professor Ahmed Zakaria explains how the emergency medical system works in Ghana.
Generally, the concept of EMS, which is the Emergency Medical Service System, is out of hospital acute medical care, and it is a system that is normally responsible to provide any form of emergency care system outside the hospital setting. And internationally, we have two main types. We have the Anglo-American system, which is practiced mainly in England and then US. And then we have the Franco-German system, which is practiced in other European countries. The difference is that with the Franco-German system, they use medical doctors and nurses to provide the out-of-hospital acute medical care. No, the paramedic system is the second one I'm explaining. The paramedic system is the Anglo-American system. Here, they don't use doctors, they use the paramedics. And both systems have their advantages and disadvantages. Ghana, for example, we are using the Anglo-American system, which is a paramedic system. Research has shown that none of the systems is more superior to the other once the systems really work. The Anglo-American system, they use a system called scoop and run. What it means is that the paramedics arrive at the scene of an accident. They quickly provide a basic first aid and straight to the hospital. Okay. And the reason is that they try to beat what they call the golden hour rule, because it's assumed that when there is a trauma, within an hour, you should be able to get the patient to the hospital and to theater, because the more you delay, the more irreversible tissue damage is caused. In the other case of the Franco-German system, they call it stand and play. Here, they take the emergency department to the field. So there, they have enough time, they can play, they manage, and they just go transfer straight to the ward. Now, in settings where you don't have many doctors, it's better to go for the Anglo-American system, and that's why we have opted for it. With that, there are two levels: the basic life support ambulance system and then the advanced life support ambulance system. Because even the paramedics, you know, we have basic emergency medical technicians and we have advanced emergency medical technicians, and then we have paramedics. So those two concepts exist. So we are using the Anglo-American system.
Now the dispatch center, the call comes there directly,
Sure.
And then you make a decision.
When the call gets to the emergency center, then they will then interrogate you. They have a systematized system of interrogation. Ask the location, what is wrong with the patient and all that. And then they will dispatch the ambulance to you. And when they arrive, definitely they start with all the basic first aid that you may need.
This is the master control room of the National Ambulance Service. I am here to experience what it means to be in the master control room, to dispatch an ambulance and to see to it that it saves another life of perhaps your relative. You can join me. The National Ambulance Service Master Control Room serves as the National Ambulance Dispatch Center and also for the Greater Accra region. There are 7 phones here serving the purpose of responding to distress calls. Matilda Nate is in charge of the dispatch center. She explains what a typical day at the center looks like.
At the control room is to receive calls, and then we look at the nearest ambulance station where the call is coming from. Then we dispatch the ambulance to the scene.
This is the master control room of the Ghana Ambulance Service. It does not only serve Accra, it serves the national also. Now, looking at this room, I'm told is a 10 by 8 feet square meter room, and you have about 7 phones here. You have a printer, a desktop computer, a tray, some books to log in calls that come in, cabinet to file folders, and other things. I am told there are 3 or more officers on duty at a time. You have day and night officers who come in to receive all the calls around the country to be able to dispatch ambulance 24 hours to meet your needs. But is this room conducive enough for the national control room of the Ghana Ambulance Service? There were at least enough ambulance stations across the country to make response time close to the world standard, but with the depletion of the fleet, many stations have been closed down.
The system didn't exist until 2004 when we started with a pilot program. And the pilot program started in 7 stations across the country, at the time just in only 3 regions. And with the pilot program being a success, we scaled up to 24 stations. And currently, as we speak now, we have 130 stations across the country. And now, if you look at it from the perspective of a system that did not exist, you will see that it is not doing badly at all. The only thing is that we could have done better. The other thing is that currently, there are many districts which still don't have the system yet. So we are still gradually increasing. But the reason we always prefer to look at the cup half full and not half empty is that from a humble beginning of nothing, we have 130 stations. From a humble beginning of just 57 staff, now we have 1,700. Initially, we were doing our training at the Fire Academy and Training School. Fortunately, now we have our own paramedic and emergency care training school. Exactly. At King Council in Ashanti region, where we now solely do training for paramedics. And it's also in future supposed to be a facility where doctors, nurses can go for short courses as refresher programs in emergency care to equip themselves and to improve their skills.
The out-of-hospital acute medical care system in Ghana is intended to beat the golden hour rule to get critical cases to the hospital for trauma management.
First is the oxygen delivery devices. This is the oxygen cylinder. It contains the oxygen. Now we connect the oxygen through either a nasal cannula or a simple face mask. And then we give this when you have a patient who is not breathing properly or a patient that needs assisted ventilation. So now, when you connect your nasal cannula, you come and open the flow meter. So this is what we use to regulate the oxygen that you are giving to the patient in need of it. Okay. We also have a suction machine. This is used to suction fluid from the mouth of a patient. Usually when you have unconscious patients, there's always a probability that their tongue may fall back. You have to open the airway. Sometimes there is saliva in there, you have to suction. So you connect a suction catheter here, you put the machine on, and then it sucks the air from the person's mouth. Yeah. We also have an equipment we call the BVM. That is the bag valve mask. It is used to give artificial ventilation to somebody who is not breathing on his own. So let's say if you have a patient who is not breathing, you fix the mask in front of the patient's face and then you give. So that's it.
We monitor the patient. We give secondary assessment in the ambulance. If I talk of secondary assessment, if we do ongoing checkups by checking the BP, the temperature, the sugar level, the SpH2, to make sure that the patient is stable till we get to the hospital.
Commercial vehicles, especially taxis, have become the major means of transferring patients who need critical care in place of an ambulance. But in one of the instances I'm about to narrate, the story turned fatal. On one Saturday evening in February 2017 at Tetegu near Waja, a man, his wife and unborn baby lost their lives. The story started when a woman in labor was referred to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital when health officials at a clinic at Kaswa realized she had complications. In the absence of an ambulance at the clinic, the husband made a difficult decision to convey his wife in the company of an aunt and a cousin to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. But that journey turned fatal. The man who was driving, his wife in labor and the unborn baby all died in an accident at Tetegu. The two other family members survived the accident, but find it too difficult to talk about. Motorists would at least heed the siren of the ambulance team, but may not do same for a private or a commercial vehicle calling for that attention. Is it possible for every facility that has the capacity of up to a community hospital to have an ambulance?
You know, every health facility is supposed to make their own arrangement to have an ambulance. They call it facility-based ambulance system. That is different from the national ambulance service. The facility-based ambulance system ideally is supposed to be a vehicle placed at the facility and ready to transport patients to higher facilities, especially when they know they'll be referring cases. So my advice is any hospital that knows that it doesn't have the capability to attend to all cases should be able to have their facility ambulance for the inter-hospital transfer. Currently, what we do is that we provide both the facility transfer, and then pre-hospital emergencies as well.
Yes.
And that sometimes creates difficulties. And so some of the hospitals already have their own facilities, their own ambulances. With them, they normally don't have this problem. Those that don't have are the ones who rely on us. And so what we normally advise is...
But you don't have enough to support them.
Absolutely we don't. Even we don't have enough for the pre-hospital care, much more for the facility ambulances. So most of the time, we end up spending more time even in the inter-facility transfers, more than even the pre-hospital emergencies.
Because I'm sure you rather focus on inter-facility transfer than, let's say, an emergency call that comes in and you are now going to struggle and locate where
that's the ideal, because ideally, that's our priority. Because once you're already in a facility, at least you are receiving some level of care. But outside the facility, there is no care. So that's where the priority normally should be.
So can we have a national policy on that? Is it likely? Is it possible?
Oh, it is possible. It's just a matter of collaboration. And once we collaborate, we should be able to really maximize our resources. Currently, some facilities do have. And once the collaboration exists, even those facilities can be networked and linked up so that they can support each other. The situation where you have an ambulance, and that was why the concept of now sending ambulances to facilities was discouraged. Because once you send an ambulance to a health facility, it becomes the property of the facility. In some cases, some even use them as utility vehicles. But when you create an ambulance station within the community, it serves both the facility and the community. Absolutely. So that's really the ideal situation. So if you have one vehicle, rather than placing it in the health facility, it's better you create an ambulance station, either placing it in the facility or outside the facility, but it should serve the whole community as well as the health facility. In the next 10 years, ideally, we wish every community gets an ambulance station. That's number one. Number two, in the next 10 years, we want to have what they call the rural emergency medical service system, where even within the rural community, the CHIPS compound will be linked up to the ambulance service, where definitely transportation to higher levels will be easy to secure. We also wish that once the country starts running a domestic airline, air ambulance becomes mandatory. And the reason is that we don't have. The reason is that should anything happen during the flight, it's catastrophic. It can be a disaster that really can create high casualties. So air ambulance becomes mandatory. Then in terms of the boat ambulance system, that also should be encouraged because of the river. Absolutely, boat ambulance system. Absolutely.
Wow, that would be great. But if we put all these measures in place, does that mean the Ghana Ambulance Service is going to be the world-class ambulance service?
That's our vision. If you look at our vision, that is the vision. Absolutely. Because even currently in the sub-region, one of the few countries with a well-organized, established ambulance system is the Ghana one. Forget about all the challenges. It's normally the system you look at. The system exists. The challenges can always be surmounted. Because with time, once you get new fleet, all these problems will be a thing of the past. But the system now, if you look at it, it really compares to any of the advanced systems. Because what comprises the system is a system where you have a toll-free number, a system where you have a dispatch center, a system where we have paramedics providing the pre-hospital care. All this exists.
You have all.
We have all. And a system where you have your own paramedic and emergency care training school, which we have. All you need now is just to perfect the system, and then you are in business.
As a matter of policy, perhaps, it is time for every hospital to acquire an ambulance in case, just in case of an emergency.